Welcome to the new Sequent Connect for Manager Self-Service. My name is Brandy Helsby. I greatly appreciate you taking time out of your day today to join us for this training webinar. Looks like we have a few more people who are still logging on, but let's go ahead and take a look here at some tips for the session today. It will last approximately 1 hour. If you are having any audio issues as you're logging in and you see this screen here, please raise your hand and notify us via the question window. Here's the control panel, what it looks like, and go to webinar and you'll see the little raise hand icon. If you have any questions in general about the material today, please submit them via the questions window. We have everyone muted, so we'll just need you to ask questions through the window. And if for any reason we are not able to get to your question today, don't worry, we will follow up with an email or the team will follow up with you after the session. We will try to address questions at the end of each section, but don't worry, if you think of something later, just go ahead and send us the question. We are recording today's webinar, and tomorrow afternoon you'll receive an email with a link to that recording as well as a copy of today's presentation. So don't worry if you feel like you might have missed something. We will absolutely have this for you to reference at a later date. All right. Looks like we've got everyone on now, so we're going to go ahead and get started. All right. We're going to talk about a number of things today. What's new in the new Sequent Connect, logging in and general navigation tips around the system. Then we're going to just lightly touch base on how to make personnel changes. We'll spend a good bulk of the time talking about the payroll process, timesheet submission options. Then we will touch on approving payroll and we'll go over some of the new reports. And then we'll get a quick snapshot of the new employee self-service portal so you can see what that will look like as well. What's new? Well, I can tell you what I think we are most excited about, and I think most clients have seen, is that the process will be a lot more streamlined in our new system. Whereas before you would maybe need to submit things via email or whatnot, you can now do everything within the system. The reports are more easily available. We'll go over that shortly when we walk through the dashboard. And employee self-service changes that are done in the employee self-service portal are now immediate. So as we get a little bit closer, as we get a little bit closer, we will send out documentation for the employees explaining how they need to register. But something that I did just want to give as a quick shout out that is a change to our legacy system is that previously if they put in direct deposit information, they had to have it be pre-noted and it wouldn't necessarily be immediate on that next payroll. Now something like that would happen immediately. The same thing would be in effect for instance tax changes or address changes. Those things are no longer subject to an approval process. The great news is for both manager and employees, the new system is completely optimized for mobile devices, which is really handy if you need to do anything on your tablet or your phone. As I'm sure you can imagine, I mean, pretty much who doesn't use some sort of mobile device nowadays? It seems like that. So that is really great for the new system. It'll definitely be much easier to use on those mobile devices. And then finally, for some clients, we have had requests for this in the past. And unfortunately, we were not able to accommodate this in the legacy system. But in the new system, there are multiple ACH accounts will be available within this setup. So if you have been interested in that in the past and we were not able to provide that opportunity, then please reach out to the team and we can get you set up once we're live in the new system with those multiple ACH accounts. Great. We are going to jump into the login screen and some general navigation. So the first time you log in, you'll see here, this is the URL that you will use to access the new Sequent Connect. So make a note of this. And again, don't worry, we will be sending out lots of documentation in the coming weeks with additional information. You will eventually be able to access it from the Sequent website, but right before we go live, we'll have a short period where we are still obviously using some items in the legacy system and some items in the new system. So until everything is up to date on the Sequent website, we'll need you to use this URL that you see here. Before you go live, you will receive an email with your username and password. So obviously you don't have that yet. When you log in for the first time, you'll see this screen. Now I will mention, you'll notice this icon, or excuse me, this logo says Share Human Resources, which clearly doesn't mean anything to you. For today's demo only, everything, because this was done in a demo database, you'll be seeing the Share logo, but normally you will see the Sequent logo, just like you do in Sequent Connect today. So that will look a little bit different. Once you get your username and password and you log in here, the first time that you log in, it will request you to reset your password for security reasons. And if at any time you ever forget your password, you can see right down here in the bottom right-hand corner, there's a Forgot Your Password link that you can click on to walk you through that process. The first time you log in, you will now access the new Sequent Connect dashboard, and this is what it looks like. We're going to walk through, and I'm going to explain what all of these different icons and menu items and whatnot offer. So let's start at the top. Up here, you'll see these three menus: My Company, My Employees, and My Payrolls. These are all drop-down menus. When you click on them, that will provide you access to different applications and to view different information. Next, you'll see this little paper icon at the top. That's the report icon. And this is really important because this is where you will find all of the in-house reports that are available to you, both employee and payroll, benefits, PTO, things of that nature. We'll touch base on a few of those as we go through the session today. Then you'll see this little search bar up here as well in the top section of the dashboard. I cannot stress enough how much I live by the search bar. There are numerous ways you can find things in the system, and everyone has a different way of what makes sense for them. You can locate things in the menu, et cetera, et cetera. For me personally, I can never seem to remember what menu has what. So the search bar is my friend. If I'm looking for a report and I start typing payroll, it will provide me a list of suggestions for all reports that have the word payroll in it, as well as other menu items and applications. So it's really handy. I highly recommend utilizing the search bar. Then you'll see these little icons right here. You'll see there's a little video camera and a question mark. Those are pretty self-explanatory. The video camera icon indicates that there's a training video available for this particular screen that we're on, which in this case is the dashboard. They are continuously adding more of these short little videos within the system. So whenever you see these, if you have 2 or 3 minutes in your busy day, I highly recommend clicking on them because it's going to be an excellent quick refresher on the system. This little question mark icon is also helpful. When you click on that, that's sort of like your help topics. So if you are, maybe let's say you're in the pay rate change screen and you're not quite sure what they want in that field, if you click on this help icon, it will give you a breakdown of what all the different fields are and hopefully give you some information that will help you understand what you need to enter there. Then finally, up in the top left-hand corner, you'll see that logo I mentioned again. It will be Sequent for you. I want you to think of that logo as the home key. Wherever you are in the system, if you've opened up a couple different screens and you can't remember how do I get back to my dashboard, it seems kind of silly, but it happens. Just click on that logo and it'll take you right back here to the dashboard. Finally, up top on the top of the dashboard, you'll see here this little blue envelope icon, and that is just alerting you that you have available messages, such as approvals possibly. Don't worry though, anything that we would send you that the system generates, you'll also receive via email. We certainly don't expect you to be dialed in and logged into New Sequent Connect every minute of the day. Then you'll see this little blue head up here in the corner. So I just wanted to give a quick note to the little blue head. Think of that as yourself. When you click on that, you'll have the opportunity to change your password or log out of the system. But probably what you'll use it most often for is to access the employee self-service side of New Sequent Connect. So because everyone today on the webinar, you are all managers who will be using the system to process payroll-related items and HR-related items, you actually just have a single sign-on that will take you to the employee portal. And I'll show you what that looks like. Your employees will use a different login. They will obviously not need to see the manager self-service version that we're looking at today, but you can go directly there once you're logged into manager self-service. Then you'll notice this little blue stack here, a little blue action bar. They laugh at me, but I like to call that the blue stack of pancakes. because that's what it reminds me of. This will provide additional menu items for you to access. To be honest, probably what I would say most clients use this for is because that is where you can add a screen to your favorites. That is really handy. I'll show you what that looks like here in a few slides. But you'll notice over here in the upper left-hand corner of the dashboard, you have this My Favorites quadrant, and I have listed timesheet entry. Think of this as like a bookmark section like you would in a browser window. This is a great feature of the new system because you can link all of the screens that you access on a regular basis. You don't have to search for them or remember what menu they're in. You can just jump here to look at the timesheet entry or the employee termination or whatever you think that you want to have front and center to access. That's really handy. You'll also see right here in the middle of your screen your support team and email information. Excellent. Now, I do want to point out the gray bar, if you'll see up here at the top. It's listed today for our purposes. We are looking at a demo company called Alice's Restaurant. Your company name will be located up here in that gray bar when you log in. For most clients who just have one company, you'll never have to worry about it. It will always default you to that company. However, for some clients who have more than one company, you will need to click on the name of the company and it will bring you up a list of all companies that are available for you to view. This is why this is important. You always want to keep an eye and know what company you're looking at. For instance, if you have Alice's Restaurant and Bob's Restaurant, and you want to run a payroll report for something related to Bob's Restaurant, but you have Alice's Restaurant here located in the company bar, then everything you run is going to be related to Alice's Restaurant. So just think of it as the company that's listed here in the gray bar kind of governs anything you're looking at in the system. All right, over here in the bottom left-hand section of the dashboard, you'll see these recent payrolls. This is probably my favorite feature of the new system. You'll see here you can click on any of the recent payrolls and it will list about 10 or 15 here. When you do that, it will instantly pull up all of your payroll information from that payroll. You'll get your summary, your detail, all of your standardized payroll reports just directly from the dashboard. Don't need to go search for anything or run any separate reports. You can access your invoice, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a really handy tool right from the dashboard. Then over here in the bottom right-hand corner, you see all of the employees. My Employees will allow you to access all of your active employees, again, directly from the dashboard. You can click here on the name and it will pop out the employee detail screen so that you can view that employee's information. As you can see, now this is what the employee detail screen will look like. This has all of their personnel information, and you'll see these different tabs: name, personal, address, work, etc. All you'll need to do is click on those to view that information. Right now we're on the Name tab, which is showing us some basic name and contact information as well as employment information. If you notice while we're on this tab, do you see across the top here all of those same items from the dashboard appear? So that's a really sort of a little handy tip that you can always access these menus, the reports, the search bar, no matter where you are in the system. All right, great. I know that was a lot of new information. Do we have any questions thus far about logging in and just sort of the general navigation and the interface that I've shown you so far? I think it's pretty intuitive, and so far everyone seems to think that it's, looks very easy to navigate, but I understand until you get in there. You just never know how easy it's going to be. But if you have any questions or you think of anything, feel free to raise your hand or shoot us a message there in the question column. Excellent. We're going to move forward then and talk about some HR and personnel changes. As I mentioned earlier, My Company, Employees, and Payrolls is where you will access these drop-down menus. So all of the HR items are located under My Employees. You'll see here Change, View, and Action. Some different things I think you'll find very helpful. The Employee Benefit Overview is a great screen to give you exactly what it says. An overview of a specific employee's benefits. There's also the PTO registers, the pay history, position history, all of those will be very helpful. Now, the items that we're really going to concentrate on today are these HR action items that are at the bottom of the dropdown. And I've highlighted, these are the 5 items that will require approval by your team or by your payroll manager. There is employee termination, leave of absence, pay rate change, position change, and status type change. We're only going to look at a couple today just due to time constraints, but I think you'll see they're very self-explanatory. So here's the employee termination screen. Let's look at this first. As you can see here, I've selected the employee, Tara Ashley. Now, do you notice where it says employee and it's underlined? And that sort of looks like a URL or a link you would access. Pretty much anywhere within the new system, when you see something underlined like that, that is a sign that you can click on it and it will provide you a list of choices or suggestions, either like a drop-down menu or a pop-up menu. So in this case, when I click on employee, it would provide all of my active employees. I can select the employee that I need to perform the termination on. Once I've selected her, it will obviously default all of her information, and then I will select the termination status code, which will always be term. And then I've selected a reason code, which in this situation is education, because Tara's returning to school. I have to enter the termination date, and in this case, I've checked the box to indicate it's okay to rehire. Clearly, there would be different situations where possibly you would not check that box. Then you'll notice I've left the box unchecked to turn off her ACH for her final check. I do realize there are some occasions where possibly you would want a live check to occur on the final check. If so, you would check that box. But in this instance, we would want the employee's last check to go to direct deposit, so I'm leaving that unchecked. I'll make a note here on the termination explanation, what caused the termination. She's returned to school. You save it, and it's easy as that. Then let's look at the pay rate change screen. Also, I think pretty intuitive, but something I know you will use a lot, so let's touch base on some of these fields. I've clicked on employee to select Ellen Ripley. It's going to, again, default all of her current information that is in the system, including her current pay rate per hour. Down here in this orange box, I've entered her new pay rate as well as the frequency per hour. Here's a little tip. You'll see the next field is new standard hours. If you just tab through to that next field, it's going to default to what we currently have in the system for her standard hours and her biweekly cycle. If for any reason you needed to change the standard hours when you're making a pay rate change, which could happen occasionally, you could do that here as well. But really, to be honest, most of the time it's going to be easiest, I think, and least confusing to just tab right on through, and that will default to what is already in the system. You'll see there it will also give you a new annualized rate of pay for Ellen. Now, I've skipped over the auto pay time card and new auto time card hours because you would only really use that in a salaried situation with an auto pay. And since Ellen is hourly, we don't want to have any auto time card hours populate for her. Then here you'll notice in this next orange box, I've entered the effective date of the pay rate change and the reason, which is performance. And then I'll save the record. We're going to talk about pay rate changes and how they work in the timesheet in the next few slides. But you'll notice here the date is 6/30, and that'll be important when we talk about that in a moment. You'll also see the pay rate history listed here. This is a great little feature. For instance, you've had a busy week. You can't remember, did I put Ellen's pay rate change in already? You can go in here and it would show you if there were any pay rates pending. So those were just a couple quick pieces of information on the personnel changes. Do you have any questions on those thus far? Those are usually pretty easy. I don't get a lot of inquiries around them, but feel free to jump in if you can think of anything. All right, great. I'm going to keep moving forward. We're going to talk about timesheet submission. These are the 3 types of time submission that are available in the new system. You would have received an email in the past week or 2 regarding your submission type that is recommended in the new system. So if you have an import timesheet, which we'll get to here in a second, you will receive that, so don't worry if you don't have it already, or if you have questions around that, feel free to reach out to the team once we send you that documentation. All right, the first type of timesheet submission is timesheet entry, which you would previously know as advanced web, and that is where you are just basically manually entering those hours and earnings, which we're going to walk through next. Then we have the timesheet import, which is where you would import an approved file, which would contain your hours and earnings. Again, you may know that as an upload or an import today in the legacy system. We'll also walk through that as well. And then finally, the auto pay or auto timesheet. This would only work for a salaried only payroll, and that is a situation where your timesheet would just be automatically generated for us to process based on hours for salaried individuals. Now, as you'll notice here, none of our payroll reporting deadlines have changed. You'll see if you have a weekly or biweekly pay cycle paid on a Thursday or a Friday, your reporting deadlines would remain 10 a.m. Monday and 5 p.m. Monday respectively. If you're a semi-monthly or monthly, we would still need to have your time submission completed by 5 p.m. 4 business days prior to the pay date. So none of that has changed. However, something that's a new feature in the new system that has changed is we now have a remote cutoff. So if you have been unable to complete your time entry by those reporting deadlines, you would then no longer have access to the timesheet because it would be automatically sent to the payroll team for processing. We really hope that this allows us to process things in a more timely manner, so we're really excited about this feature. But we do understand that it's a change, and every once in a while you have extenuating circumstances that are out of your control that may cause you to be a little late or not be able to get those hours and earnings in before the deadline. On the occasion that that happens, what you'll need to do is, if you know ahead of time that you're not going to be able to meet that deadline, we ask that you reach out to the team to let them know so that they can extend your remote cutoff for that particular week. If you are unable to contact us and you realize after the fact that you missed the date, you will need to reach out to the team so that they can basically turn over control of the timesheet back to you so that you can finish it and we can go ahead and start processing. So just let us know if you have any questions around that once we get closer, but really none of the deadlines have changed, so hopefully we don't anticipate that being an issue. All right, now let's talk about the submission process itself. This is one of the things I'm really excited about because it allows you to do everything within the new system. As you can see, this is called the Payroll Notes section. You can access Payroll Notes from a couple of different ways, either on the My Company drop-down menu under Company View right here, or you can search in the search bar. I may have mentioned already that that's my favorite way to find things. Here's why. Let's say you're working in someone's record, or possibly you're on the timesheet and you remember, oh, I want to let the team know. You don't have to stop and send an email or anything else. Just start typing payroll notes up here and you'll see these suggestions pop up. When they do, you'll want to click on this little blue arrow. Whenever you are looking for something in the search bar, you can click anywhere. To be quite honest with you, if you wanted to pull up payroll notes, I could click over here. But when you click on this little blue arrow to the side, it will pop out that menu and it will not affect what you're doing. So like I said, very handy when you're in the timesheet entry screen and you think, oh, I have to remind them to check on a benefit refund, and you don't want to exit what you're doing. You can just pull up that payroll note, select the employee, enter it, save, and go back to the timesheet. So it's great. You don't have to get out of the system or change what you're doing. So this is what a payroll note looks like. Once you click on that, you'll get a screen asking you if you want to enter a new note. And after you click on new note, you'll see this pop up. Now, do you notice where it says employee underlined? It's just like I mentioned before, where you can click on it and it will provide you a list of employees. I've selected Harry Callahan for today's example. However, I will want to just let you know, if you have a payroll note that is for all employees and it's not specifically targeted to one person, that's fine. You can leave the employee field, but still let you save and send that note. In this situation, it is for Harry, so I've selected him, and I've noted the display mode is just a one-time. I just want the payroll team to see this message once in this particular payroll. Well, let's say you had something that you wanted to show up for all scheduled payrolls. You could do that. Or possibly you had something that you wanted to show up for a month. You could put scheduled payrolls, and then you would just put an expiration date. Let's say you entered it the first week of August and you wanted it to expire 9/1. You could do that as well. Now, if you'll notice, the next thing right here says Mark Urgent. There's a little checkbox, and I've ticked that. Now, you may say to yourself, well, just checking a new pay rate or something that's not necessarily urgent, but I do want them to look at it. It's just best practice to mark it all as urgent. I've recommended this to clients because when you mark it as urgent, it actually pops up on the time screen, so it can't be missed. So I would highly recommend just get into the habit of marking it urgent for everything. Then you'll notice here I've entered the notes for this particular example. Just please make sure Harry's bonus check is on a separate check. And that way when the team goes in to calculate and process payroll, they will see that reminder to double check when they're auditing. So it's a great feature. After you're done, click Save, and it will be attached to that payroll. Excellent. Now let's look at how you find the timesheet. A couple different ways, which I know I sound like a broken record there. You can either go through the My Payrolls drop-down menu and locate timesheet entry, or, my favorite, the search bar. Once you do that, you can access the timesheet entry by clicking here on gray, or as I mentioned before, if you'd like to pop it out, you can do that as well. Now, you'll see this screen here and you'll notice we only have one timesheet in today's example. However, we do have some clients who could have multiple timesheets. Possibly you have a weekly and a bi-weekly payroll, or a semi-monthly and a monthly. In that case, if it's all within the same company, you would see more than one timesheet here. Now, here's my favorite thing that I mentioned before. Click on the blue stack of pancakes. You'll see this Add to Favorites will drop down. Go ahead and select that. And now, every time you log in, this timesheet entry screen will be on your dashboard. You don't have to search for it. You don't have to remember what menu it lives in. You can just click on it and access it very easily. All right, let's select the payroll number to see what the timesheet looks like. We're going to watch a quick demo on the timesheet entry and import. We'll talk about what some of the different icons and whatnot look like. All right. Excellent, here we go. Now it's a little bit smaller on this screen, so bear with me, but you'll see here you have the start and end dates as well as the pay dates on the timesheet. And then you have these icons. The first one is how you import a timesheet. The third icon here is a report that I'm going to instruct you to run after you've imported or entered your time each week, so you have a record of that. Finally, you'll see these search and these filters. I've mentioned to some other clients, not probably a lot of people use this, but it's really handy for very large clients. If you have a few hundred employees and you want to filter by department or search by a location, you could do that here. But if you have less than 20 employees and everyone is included on one, maybe two screens, it might not be as useful as a feature to you. So let's look at how you import a file. As I mentioned, you'll click here on this icon. And also, please note, if you don't have a copy of your timesheet import template before your first payroll, please reach out to the team and let you know. But we will be sending documentation as it gets a little bit closer with step-by-step how to do an import as well as how to format it. Once you click on that timesheet import icon, this will pop up. Click on Start Import. You'll then get a pop-up asking you to choose your file. And you'll see here, I have my file listed as Alice A, and it's located on my desktop. Yours will default to your document folder, but you can save it wherever you want and then navigate throughout your computer. Whatever makes you comfortable, wherever you would like to save it is totally fine. Just remember so you know where to locate it when you're downloading it, or excuse me, when you're uploading it. Once you've selected your timesheet, go ahead and click on Open, and then Submit. After you submit it, you'll see here you'll get a little note that the file has been uploaded successfully. Don't worry that the duration says 0000 possibly. If you have a smaller file, it will say that. It happens very quickly. If you have several hundred employees, obviously, it could take a little bit longer, but it's still a very quick process. So when you're done with that, go ahead and click Close, and then it's going to pop up and show you what the timesheet import looks like. So you can see here, again, it's going to confirm for you the start and pay date. And then you'll notice it has 0 errors and a record count of 21. That's great. That's what you want to see. So as I mentioned, I'll send you out some tips and tricks for troubleshooting. Possibly you could have an error if you have a new worksite location that maybe we haven't been notified about. It'll show you an error. It'll give you an opportunity to review that and default them to the home location. And then you can work with the team to add that location. Also, you'll notice you'll want to take a look here and see all of the employees. Here's all the pay codes, all of the hours worked, their pay rate. Just kind of give a quick look-see and make sure everything looks right to you. Once you're satisfied, you have no errors, and you have all of your information, you'll go ahead and post the data to your timesheets. Once you do that, oh, pardon me, I clicked a little too many. Once you do that, you'll see all of the time has been entered here in the timesheet. Now, at this point, you could be done with your import and you could finalize, but what I want you to do first is to run that timesheet report. We're going to get to that in a minute. What else is new in this system is that even if you have an import and you realize after you've made your import, oh no, I forgot 16 hours of PTO for someone, or I forgot a holiday for someone, you do not need to go back, change that import, and re-import it. You can make that change manually right here in the timesheet. So let's walk through how to do that really quickly. So if you're entering hours manually, what again used to be Advanced Web, it's very simple. You'll click here, access the timesheet. It's exactly the same screen. And as you'll notice here, Harry Callahan is a salaried employee. So if you have any salaried employees with auto time hours, you'll see the little green dot. That will note that he is a salaried employee. And let's say we have to enter 16 hours of PTO. So you've gone in, manually entered these 16 hours. You're going to get a little pop-up from the system that says, hey, these hours will affect his salary amount. Do you want us to auto-reduce those standard hours? Whereas before you have to do that manually. All you have to do is click yes, and that will update it to 64 reg hours and 16 PTO. Now, there could be occasions where you don't want it to update. Maybe this is a termination and you're paying out PTO, or possibly it was PTO that was owed from a prior cycle. You can go ahead and click no, and they'll still receive the regular hours and then the PTO hours in addition. Okay? Now, you'll go through and enter all the rest of the hours for the employees. So just to let you know how easy it is to navigate through here, you can tab to move to the right, shift tab to move to the left. You can use your arrow keys to move up and down, or you can just use your mouse, obviously, and just click into all of the different cells to enter any regular overtime, PTO hours, etc. Okay? Now, we're going to enter a bonus earning here for Andy Dufresne. And I'm going to show you how to access the detailed timesheet entry. And let's use in this example that possibly we have to allocate those earnings to either a different department or location. If you ever have to do that, whether it's an allocation or maybe enter an additional pay code that's not located on this summary up here, all you have to do is click on the name of the employee so that you can access their detailed timesheet entry. This is what the detailed timesheet looks like. Here I have both entries, his regular and his bonus entry. Now this is sort of a personal preference, what's easier for you. You can click on the drop-down menu to select bonus, and then it will all fill here in the detailed timesheet entry, or you could click here on 1 or 2 and it will bring the information over. It's whatever works best for you. Now, in this situation, we are just merely going to allocate his bonus earnings to a different department. But if you notice here how this is underlined, let's say you wanted to change the pay code for any reason, or you wanted to allocate it to a different location. You could do that as well here. We're going to go ahead and click on Department, and you'll get this little suggested list that pops up, and we are going to choose Management because we want to allocate his bonus hours to Management. Once we've done that, you'll see now under Department it says 200 Management, but we're going to leave his regular salary still allocated to Admin, which is his default department. When you're finished, go ahead and click Save after you've completed entering the changes. Then click Return, or you can use the X button here to get out of that screen. It will bring you back to the summary. Now, after you've finished entering all of your hours, if there's any detailed changes that need to be made, you're ready to run that timesheet report that I mentioned earlier. That icon is located right here in the timesheet up in the upper right-hand corner. I don't know if you can notice because it is a little small on our presentation today, but this report icon is exactly the same icon that you see on the dashboard for all of your in-house reports. When you click on that, it will pop up the timesheet report entry page, and you'll just click Run Report. And this is a sample of what the report looks like. Now, if you notice, it's a little bit different from what you're used to in seeing the pre-check detail listing. This is basically what's going to take the place of that report in the new system at this point in the process. There is an option for you to view a report if you so choose to approve payrolls, and we'll talk about that next. But for right now, you're going to look at the timesheet entry report. You can see here it has the employee name, the date, the location, pay description, the hours, the rate, so you can note if you've had a rate change for someone, as well as the gross pay. You'll also see here on this drop-down menu, there's a variety of different options of how to view this report. You can email it to yourself, you can print it directly, convert it to a PDF, etc. You can also export it to Excel if you choose to do that. It works pretty well, this particular report. Once you're finished with that, go ahead and click the Close button to exit. And now that you've completed all of your information and you're ready to submit payroll, you can finalize. You'll also notice this Finalize Page button here. That's really useful for large clients who have multiple pages of employees that maybe you just want to work on one section at a time. You can navigate those with the arrows here. And when you're completely finished, go ahead and click Finalize. All right, now I realize that we've gone over a lot of different information about the timesheet. You may have additional questions. What I would highly recommend the first time you do log into the system and you're using the timesheet, we will have documentation for you, but something that's really helpful, that video camera icon I mentioned, there's a quick 3-minute video that will walk you through how to make all those manual changes on the timesheet. Really handy. You'll also have the question mark icon as well for specific topics that you can use on any screen, but will also be very helpful for you here on the timesheet entry. All right, great. Let's get back to our presentation. One more particular item on the timesheet entry that's a new function that I think is really handy that I wanted to go over. I mentioned it earlier, is the pay rate change. If you make a pay rate change in the middle of a cycle, previously we would have to manually enter all of that and do different entries and split everything up. Well, now the system knows that you've made that pay rate change in the middle of a cycle. So you'll see a little red dot next to Andrew Dufresne's name. That's going to indicate that there's been a pay rate change. You click on the red dot and that pops up this new pay rate assignment screen. As you can see, it's going to attribute all of the hours that are in the system to the new pay rate. However, it shows you here the effective date, so it's really simple. You can say, oh, nope, he worked on Monday or Tuesday 8 hours, so he really should have 8 hours at the old rate, and then it will default and update it to 52 hours at the new rate. Then all you have to do is click Accept, and it updates it in the timesheet. I love this feature. I think it will really help and save you a lot of extra emails and discussions and whatnot because you can just change it right here in the system. Once you're done, click Accept, and that's that. Excellent. Well, that was a lot of information about the timesheet submission, so I do understand. It looks like we have a question. Someone asked about manual timesheets versus the imports, and how do we decide who gets what? Well, there's a lot of different analyzation that we went through in determining what we thought would be the best form of submission for you. But kind of a general rule of thumb is if you have more than 20 employees, it would certainly be much easier for you and a much more streamlined process if you could import them. So again, if you have any questions about that, you should have received an email within probably the last 2 weeks or so, letting you know what type of timesheet submission would be recommended for you. But just reach out to the team if you have any questions as we get a little bit closer. Okay? Excellent. Nothing else? Wonderful. We're going to jump into the new portion of approving payroll. Now, currently, I don't believe very many of you are set up in the legacy system to approve payroll in this manner, and that's fine. We will not set you up to approve unless you wish to do so. By no means an obligation to do this. However, if you do wish to see any detail or an invoice before payroll is finalized, This is a little bit different in the timing process, so we're going to walk you through it. If you choose to approve payroll before it's posted, you'll receive an email. As soon as you've submitted your timesheet, we'll calculate your time, and once we have reviewed everything, we'll send you an email letting you know that it's available for review. Now, once you get that email, you can come in here and you will access this either from the My Company drop-down menu, and you'll see approvals pending, or you can just start typing it in the search bar. I would also recommend putting this on your dashboard under the favorites. Now, I will say I skipped a screen here on approving payroll because it's a little redundant. The first time you log in here, you'll see this approvals pending. If you have one pending for you down at the bottom, you have to click here first and grab that approval and assign it to yourself. It's just an extra screen, so I saved us the time today, but I wanted to let you know that you might see that. The reason, honestly, that it exists like that is because depending on the client, you may have multiple payrolls to approve. Some of them may be assigned to you, some of them may not. But for most people who just have one approval, it's just an extra step. Once you see that payroll approval up here assigned to you, you'll go ahead and click on payroll approval, and this is what that screen looks like. Again, just will confirm your pay date. It's a regularly scheduled payroll. Then you'll select here from the drop-down for all of the reports. What we're going to look at today, the payroll summary, the invoice, and the check journal report. Those are the three reports that I think most clients find have all the information they need to review their payroll. So that's what we're going to take a look at. First is the payroll summary. You'll see here it shows the payroll number, pay date, again, that it's a regularly scheduled payroll, and the paid group. And then you just have a good snapshot of all of your employees, their hours, their gross pay, their taxes, etc. We'll also tell you if they're going to get a live check or a deposit. And here you can click on each of their individual vouchers to see that information for an individual employee if you need to. As I mentioned earlier, pretty much any time you see something underlined, you can click on it to get more information. When you're done taking a look at the payroll summary, just go ahead and close out of that report, and then we're going to select the invoice, the display invoice, actually. Now, I say display invoice because I know when clients look at this invoice, they think, this looks like 1984, and don't worry, this is just the audit process or the review process. The actual invoice that you receive once payroll has been finalized will be a very similar look to what you currently receive in the legacy system. It'll be a PDF. This kind of old school view is just really for your review before we finalize. Next, I would recommend from the drop-down that you select the check journal report. And this is a great report. It really is going to basically replace our pre-check detail and summary in the legacy system. And I think actually you got a lot of information that you would from the deduction by deduction report as well. And we're just looking at an individual employee, but obviously there would be a grand total on this report that you could refer to for match the invoice, etc. You'll see here it shows the employee, their pay method, the net pay, breaks down all of the hours and earnings, and then you have a full list here on the left of the employee deductions, and on the right all of the employer contributions. So it's a really great report. Again, if you ever wanted to run this after payroll separately, you can. You can rerun this report at any time after payroll's been finalized. You can sort it by department, location, etc. But just the general standardized report, it's going to pull it in all employees by employee here. All right, after you've looked at the reports and you think everything looks good, you're ready to approve, you'll come back here to this screen and click approve. Now, if for any reason there is a change or maybe you noticed, oh, we missed some hours on the import, you can make a note here in the comments and click deny. This will then send it back to the payroll manager so that they can make the change, update it, recalculate it, and finish processing your payroll. Again, it's great. You can do it all right here in the system. No need to do a separate email if you don't want to. All right, now let's look at a couple of other reports. The Employee Master Report, it's not a standard payroll report, but it is an HR report that you can find from the little report icon on the top of your dashboard, and this is a great report that a lot of people like. You'll see here, it's by individual employee, Harry Callahan. Here's his employee ID and his birthday. All of his contact and personal information is located up here. Compensation and tax information. All of his PTO is included. This is great, great view right here of anything used or a balance. Also, what I love is this year-to-date summary. So if anyone wanted to know, here's their full pay, any deductions and taxes for the entire year. You'll also see it's a little partially obscured on my example today, but this would be all of his benefit information as well. So it's a really handy report. What's nice about the Employee Master is that you can run it by department if you wanted to. If you just wanted for a manager who wanted to see all of their employees, you can run it by individual. You can run it wide open for your entire company, and it's just one page per employee. There's some other reports like a census report you'll see here that would just run some real basic information that is, one screen for all employees. You'll also have the employee address report is handy, the supervisor report. So there's lots of different things you'll see. Those are all accessible from the report icon and HR reports. Next, I want you to just take a quick look at the benefits billing report. The benefits billing report is a standardized payroll report that will be a part of that payroll history that I talked about in the beginning on the dashboard, where you just click right on the payroll number. It takes you to all of that history. This report is created each week once we finalize payroll. You can also find it under the HR reports menu if you ever wanted to rerun it in a different mode for whatever reason. Here you'll see it lists Harry Callahan, his employee ID, all of his plan information, and then both of the employer and employee contributions. So this might also take place of one of the current deduction reports. However, we also have the deduction code detail that will provide deduction information by code versus specifically by employee, so it would be grouped together. Now, it also tells you who the employee is here, but you can see if it's a loan, child support, as well as a medical deduction here, such as dental. We'll show you the pay dates and all of the amounts. You can find this report under the payroll report menu. It's not a standard report, but you can run it at any time just from that report icon. All right. Any questions about some of those reports? And again, by no means is that an exhaustive look at all of the reports available, but those are some of the reports that I've had other clients in the past use on a regular basis that they really find useful and helpful. All right, great. Well, let's jump forward since we're getting kind of short on time, and let's take a quick look at employee self-service. Again, I mentioned we'll be sending out some documentation for all of your employees so that they know the URL to access once it's time for them to register in our new portal. And you'll see here, this is what it will look like. And the employees will need to click here on the register link the first time they access. When they do that, it'll pop up with this user registration page, and they'll enter their last name and social security number in those first two fields. Then it will ask them to create a username and password below. See all these strong password requirements? Just as kind of an FYI, those requirements are the same for you when you manage your self-service password, just as a helpful hint. Once the employee clicks register, it will take them back to the screen where they will enter their username, click continue, then enter their password, and that will bring them into the new Sequent Connect dashboard for employee self-service. Here's what it looks like. As you can see, it is way simpler than our current legacy system. They have three icons they can access: Myself, Benefits, and Payroll. Myself has exactly what you would expect, all of their personal employment information, a good overview. Benefits will have all of their plan information and what they are enrolled in and their amounts. And then Payroll is where the bulk of their info would be. This is where they will obviously see their check history. It's where they would update their taxes, if they made a direct deposit change or they just wanted to see their direct deposit information. All of that is located in the Payroll icon. Now, as far as check history, I will mention, and again, this will be on the documentation, but for your employees in the new system, they will be able to see all of their pay history for 2016. However, if they need to reprint a check from prior to using the new system, they will need to reach out to the team. They can view that information, but actually getting a printout of that information, they'll need to reach out to the team. Anything going forward, they can reprint a check stub right out of the system. And also, once we are in 2017, they'll be able to print those W-2s, ongoing, so on and so forth. All right. Do we have any questions about how to navigate or explore in the new Sequent Connect? I think it looks pretty easy and pretty intuitive, but again, once you get in there for the first time, Feel free to reach out to the team if you have any questions about the dashboard or how to access different menus. I think you can see it's going to be a much more streamlined process and interface for everyone. And obviously, as we just saw, how simplified the employee self-service portal is. Great. Well, if there are no further questions today, I do appreciate you joining us. Thank you so much. Again, always reach out to the team. If you have any further questions, we'll be glad to help, or send us an email via the training webinars notification when you receive that email tomorrow. If you have a question, let us know from there. But you will have a link to today's recorded webinar, as well as a copy of our presentation and the demo for the timesheet import and entry information. If you'd like to view that as well, you can see that again. So great. Again, thank you so much for taking an hour out of your day today. We greatly appreciate, and have a fantastic weekend.